Hello everybody. I hope that you're well. A huge welcome to my channel and my mini episodes on the centers. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about the will center, often called the heart center. Now, I don't want you to muddle this with the identity center because that is all about love and the heart and identity. But the will center is all about your resources. It's about your ego. It's about your self-worth. Okay. And the really interesting thing about the will center is that 37% of the population have this defined, and 63% of the population have this undefined. So if you look at this in a really, really practical way, 37% of the population, if they are tapping into the consistent energy that the will center gives them, in a business context, they shouldn't have any problems pricing their worth, pricing their services, pricing their products. But if you look at this within a business context again, and you look at the 63% of the population who have it undefined, then we start to understand why maybe so many people have challenges with gaining confidence in pricing their products and services. So that's just a really, really quick example of the will in action. Okay. You'll have to forgive me because I keep looking down because at the moment I'm having a bit of a memory thing. I don't know what's going on, but we'll go with it. So the will, let me quickly share my screen because I want to show you where the will is located. So here we go. So this is a human design body graph chart. I'm hoping that you've got to this video through the other center videos. And if you haven't, there are other videos on all of the other centers. So it's 9 centers within the human design body graph. And this is the body graph. And these shapes are all of the different centers. Now, each video goes through what each of these shapes means, so I won't go through that today, but I will say very quickly that when you see something that's colored in, that means it's a defined center, so you have consistent access to that energy. When the center is white with colored numbers, it is undefined, and when the center is completely white without any colored numbers, then it's completely open, okay? And the difference between the colored centers and the white centers is that the defined centers give you consistent access to that energy that those centers are trying to move through your body. And the open or undefined centers is where you'll take on that energy and experience it through different flavors, depending on the environment and the people that you're surrounded with. And today we're going to be talking about this center here. This is called the will center. And you can see in this chart that it's colored in, which means it's defined. If you'd like to get your body graph, then please just go to effiemoss.com. You can grab it for free, and then you can also download it so you can start to have a look. And hopefully by the time you're looking at this, you'll be able to click on each of the different links with the text that surrounds your body graph, and it will go to each of the different videos. So let's get into the will center. So the will center is very much around willpower, okay? So these are people who have very, very consistent and strong work ethics. They tend to be able to make promises and keep them. They're very, very loyal, right? And they're able to normally use their resources quite wisely. So when we talk about resources, if you're looking at it from a business context, and that could be teams, people, it could be money, for example, money kind of exists in terms of self-worth within this particular center. And as I said at the beginning of this video, you know, with such a large percentage of the human population with it undefined, you can see that if everybody is because when you have an undefined center, you're taking on that energy and you're then amplifying it depending on who's around you. You can see why we can run into so many coaching challenges in trying to tell people to price their worth. And I find this particularly interesting because I have a defined will. I'm lucky enough to have a defined will. I love the fact I have a defined will because I can stand in my power. I don't have any challenges with pricing my services or my worth. I've just never had issues like that. But thankfully, because of my open emotional solar plexus and the other gifts I have in my chart, you know, I completely understand that we're all 100% unique. So I don't peddle stuff that says, right, I can do it, so you must be able to. What the human design body graph enables me to see is actually, where are my undefined peeps with the will center, right? Where might there be some challenges around conditioning, around self-worth, around, you know, making sure that you can fulfill your purpose through via resources, so teams, people, money. Okay. When you look at the will center, you know, the least optimal expression of it is needing to prove your worth. So we often find that somebody that has a defined center, if, for example, they aren't living to its fullest expression, then they might be tapping into needing to prove their worth. So knowing their worth is fine, but needing to prove it, i.e. needing somebody to congratulate them, or overworking, over delivering, because they're trying to justify the fact that they are worth this X amount. Okay. And you may also find that in your undefined centers, depending on who you are surrounding yourself with. So if you do feel like that, just take a moment, create space between you and that, and actually think to yourself, is that really mine? Or am I borrowing that from somebody else? Is that really what I think about myself? And if it is, start to then peel it back layer by layer. Why? It's a bit like with 7 whys, right? Why do I feel like this? And then it's the first answer that comes to your head. Then ask why again, then why again, then why again. You do this 7 times. And basically, by the time you get to the 7th time, if you've stayed in the purity of the question and the flow, then you generally get to the heart of actually what's hiding and lurking underneath. Also with the will as well, it's, because with the defined will, people with defined wills are able to make and keep their promises. So you then find that on the other side of that is the pressure to make promises. So you might find that actually you are, feeling under pressure to kind of commit to something that maybe isn't fully aligned to you, something that doesn't really speak to your authority or your strategy. So within human design, we talk about the energy types, we talk about strategy, and we talk about authority. And when you put those 3 things together, we find out how, through our energy types, how we operate and interact with the world around us. Our strategy is how we interact with people, and then our authority is how we make decisions. And when you kind of put those 3 things together, you normally have a really lovely, just basic framework in terms of how to start to attune more to your body and come away from the mind controlling everything. With the will, again, it's, I think as well, people can sometimes feel that they're under pressure to be brave, loyal, maintain and keep promises, even though it's their natural state to keep promises and make them, right? It's their natural state to have high work ethic. It's their natural state to be loyal. But then the other side of that is to, if you're not aligned to things that fully suit you and serve you, then you may feel under pressure to commit to those things. And I think as well with the will, and I know that this is, and I'll be very honest because I know that this has shown up for me, but it's the need to be in control. So especially during my younger years, oh my goodness, the amount of times I was called a control freak, especially in project environments within work. And that was something I had to really work through. And I think I've come through that as I've matured, and with experience as well. But it's this need to feel in control. And it's no surprise that the 44 channel over here in the spleen connects to the gate 26 over in the will, right? And when you put those two gates together and it creates the channel, we sometimes call it the channel of the entrepreneur, but it's also called the channel of surrender, right? And surrender literally means take a leap of faith, trust, right? Go with, ebb and flow with life. So it makes no surprise that you have this gate 26 here in the will that can almost ignite this need to be in control. And that's obviously the least optimal expression, or one of the least optimal expressions of this channel of surrender. So when you start to pick things apart and start to look at the charts and start to see what it's showing you, you can see where it's just logically making sense, right? And I think for me, especially for business owners, I will say this, especially for business owners, it's a big deal to be able to feel comfortable in the service and products that you are providing. And if you don't price yourself correctly, we know that restricts cash flow in your business, that then impacts your growth. Okay. I also recognize that that's a really hard thing for people to do. And sometimes it's a bit of a process. Sometimes you need to go through the process of creating those services and delivering them and having the experiences of putting it out into the world and how people respond to feel comfortable about how you want to price something. And it's the same with your product. But if you are pricing a product or a service that is minimal amounts and it's costing you far much, more time, more effort, and you can feel, misalignment with the pricing for that product or service because you're starting to feel bitter if you're a projector. You may be starting to feel frustrated if you're a manifester, for example. If you're starting to feel these not self themes, then it's something that you naturally need to have a look at. and we talk about stepping out of our growth zone. We know it might feel uncomfortable, but really pricing is such a sensitive topic. And it's something that, even with me, right, I have a defined will and I'm able to price my services, but that doesn't mean to say that I will price something, I don't know, £5,000 and be comfortable with it. When I'm pricing something, not only am I thinking about, right, well, what's the effort in this? What's the exchange? What's the energy exchange that I'm asking for when I'm pricing one of my services or my products, right? Because it's all about an energy exchange. And it's not just sometimes about the physical thing that you're creating or you're delivering, but it's the foundation that that thing was built on. How many years experience? What has that experience cost you? And that might not be in literal terms, i.e. thousands of pounds in courses, but it might be in your life experience, like the path that you had to walk in order to gain that knowledge. That's all worth something. And when you then do price, you need to make sure that you can go to sleep at night and know that you can deliver something without feeling hot under the collar and under pressure, because now you've raised the expectation bar so high that you feel you might have outpriced almost like the expectation or what you can deliver. So there's this like balancing act, right? It's like, okay, so what's your experience and all the other foundational elements that have created this service and product? Where's that come from? How's that cost you over the years, right? And then it's actually the delivery mechanism of that service or product. So what are the actual physical costs in creating that product or service? But then you've also got like the expectation, where are you setting the bar in terms of the results that people are expected to achieve from this service or product? And, all things have a result, even if it's something that's not about you making money or it's not about changing someone's life, right? Often we're creating beautiful products because they're either going to be transformational or they're going to be beautiful, right? And the beautiful stuff as well also has an expectation. Someone's tapped into you, they believe in you enough to want to pop their hand in their pocket and pay for a product or service that you have. So it's not about, well, just because I don't have, it's all right for the people with defined wills, right? It's easier for them to price. Probably. But, even with a defined will, you still have to honor the integrity that goes around pricing. You still have to honor the integrity around allocating those resources. And you need to be able to have this measure, these steps almost of like ticking this checklist off, foundational experience, the actual cost of it, where you're setting the level of expectation for it, the result that it's going to create, etc., right? And I can talk about this for ages. I won't. But, one isn't better than the other. If you have an undefined will, then you're going to be able to experience that depending on who's around you. You will take those learnings. You're going to be able to try on different ways of approaching how to price products or services, that you might want to offer through your business. And if it's not even business related, right, and it's just something as simple as making and keeping promises, again, defined centers. The optimal expression is that you're able to commit to things, you're able to honor the promises that you make, and you're able to keep them. Okay. The undefined expression is that you're absolutely able to do that, but you might sample that energy in different ways. You might have people in your life who haven't done that. So they're showing you the contrast of it, right? The opposite of it, what it feels like to not keep your promise, what it feels like to not be loyal, what it feels like to not keep your word. Right? So you get to try all of that on. And for me, I think that's an amazing gift because you get to then choose, you get to sift and sort what you want to align yourself with. And then if you've got it defined, you just have that consistent energy. It's part of ingrained part of who you are. And you're going to get to try that on through your own life experiences, through your own relationships. So the will center, it really makes me smile because it's this tiny little shape in the body graph, but it has this huge, big meaning. And I think when you sort of start to uncover it and you explore it within for your own personal life story, you can very quickly start to see where like self-worth issues might come in, where challenges might come in. But I think sometimes when you take a step back and you can understand it in the context of, well, it's consistent energy to me, and this is the optimal expression. So where am I on this optimal, where am I on the scale, right? What's stopping me from achieving the optimal expression of this amazing defined center? Because I've been given it for a reason, versus an undefined center oh, wow, I get to kind of sift and sort. I get to choose. I get to try on different ways of experiencing this center so that it can align to the best version of me. Right. So there's two kind of expressions. And I think this is probably one of my favorite centers. And I say that on video. Anyway, I will see you in the next video where I'll be talking about the emotional center. So please do let me know your thoughts on the will center. Any questions, anything that's resonated, let me know if you've got an undefined center or a defined center, open center, let me know down below because I love talking to everybody in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.